I've got one that can see.
Logic before authority.
Hi guys, this is Daniel Alexander Cannon here on Logic Before Authority, and we're going to use some Logic Before Authority. Now, what I'm showing you on screen right now is going to, some of you, is going to blow your mind. Now, you've heard me say some of this before. I knew this was the case, but I had to have time to put it all together, okay, before I can bring it to you in an image like this so that you can understand it. Okay, on the left we have Edomite gods, the gods that the Edomites worshipped, like Q, you know, like trust the plan Q. And then there's Apollo, and then there's Astareth and Molech and Baal and Dashara. Okay, on the right hand side we have fallen angels and their attributes that are accounted to them as well, biblically. And Semyaza, okay, matches up with Q. Apollo matches up with Acherel, angel of the sun, associated with healing and sorcery and astronomy, and that's from 2 Enoch, okay? And we're going to go into all of this, each different ones of them, and take a look at them. We're also going to actually pull up the actual scripture and look at each one as well. And actually, since this is listed in Enoch, I'll have to pull up, not all of it in Enoch, but I'll have to pull it up like Leviticus. Azazel is listed in Leviticus, which is Moloch, god of fire, okay? So, and just tons of other information that we're going to get into. We've got to look at the actual gods that are ascribed. They're Greek, they call them Greek myths, but they're not myths, unfortunately. What they are is they're the fallen gods, or the fallen angels that rebelled, and we're going to look closely at them, and I'm going to go through and read all of this to you, and we're going to make sense of it all together. And we're also going to look at where Edom was. Okay, of course, Edom was southwest of what is now Israel, okay? And they were out there in the area of Petra. Okay, matter of fact, they built Petra. I am pretty positive of that. We went through a lot of that in my last video, and but we're going to look at over time where they ended up at, you know, and you're going to find out it's very, very interesting where they ended up at over time. Like in Rome, they moved into the area of Rome, okay? And so what this does is this ties together everything, including the new temple that's being built at the White House. I had a feeling right when they first come out and announced it that they were doing a ballroom. It was going to be a Baal room. And if we want to look at Baal, it is the storm god, Lord of storms, thunder, and rain. And where she's worshipped with animal sacrifices. And where we heard something about the calm before the storm, and where have we seen things that symbolically resemble a storm? Okay. Yeah, exactly. And so we're going to go through all of this a little bit more in detail. And also we're going to go through quite a bit of other things as much as I possibly can. Previous video I put out just a little bit earlier, I asked for y'all guys' support for my work. I would hope that you can see I'm putting in 110% effort and trying to discern and make logical sense out of everything that's taking place. Okay. This is an AI created image of what the ballroom, the Trump ballroom or ballroom, or the third temple, which it really is what that is. It is a recreation of the Temple of Apollo, and also is the same, which is the temple of Apollo, and it's the same as the temples of Apollo in the past. And we're going to go look at some of those, and we're going to look at the current floor plans. We got a lot to look at. I hope my voice lasts long enough that we can get through this, because this is going to get really, really interesting and educational. Okay, so where do we want to start? Oh my gosh. I could, we've got so much that we could start and do. I've already shown y'all guys some very interesting things. I'll show it again real quick. We can look in Petra, which is southwest of Israel. In Petra, and this is an image from Petra, it showed the pillars, okay? And the pillars, you can see the design of the pillars here. Look how what looks like leaves or water, symbolically could be both, but leaves flowing upwards. And then at the top, it has these twists, like a vine twisting, right? Okay. You look at it real closely, notice that it has these areas like right here that stick off from the middle of this pillar support. Notice how the pillar supports all stick out further, all the way around. And then if we go and we look at the pillars that are in the 66th floor penthouse, I showed you that this matched this exactly. Not just close, but exactly. So what does that mean? Now, I'm sure there's some people that don't know what it means, or you want to maybe think that it means something else, or don't want to admit the truth. But what it means, this golden palace, okay, was built in the honor of the gods of the Edomites. And who are they? They're the fallen angels. And I'm going to virtually prove it to you here in just a little bit. Notice the twisty thing here as well, just like on the pillar, all twisted up, right? And you have these pillars throughout this penthouse that's laden in gold. And then, let's see here. All of this stuff is based on Greek ideology, including like this right here on the corner of this desk is a lyre, what's called a lyre, okay? And you've got Apollo on that painting back there being led by Aurora. I showed all y'all guys all of this, including the murals that are on the ceilings, where you have Apollo right here, the sun god, being led by Aurora. Okay, there's Aurora right there. You can look it up. Okay, Apollo in a chariot as the sun god being led by Aurora, the goddess of the morning, of the rise of the sun, basically. So now y'all guys have seen that. The reason why I'm kind of rehashing is for someone who maybe has not seen what I'm trying to show. I also told y'all guys and explained to you, and you can look this up for yourself. I've already shown it in previous videos that Apollo has certain attributes. Okay. And we were looking at those attributes just a minute ago. Like form of their earlier, this is Apollo, okay, form of their earlier sun or storm god associated with prophecy, music, healing, and light. And you can see in his hand, he has what's called a lyre, okay, just like the one that was sitting on the desk that I showed you just a moment ago, okay. Now, he is also depicted many times in many ways that he carries a arrow in his hand, which is symbolic for the piercing of someone. And he is the god of it says here healing and light, as the way I've got it here, but actually it should say sickness and healing, okay, is the way it really should read. Now, I've got so much to show you. It's just incredible. Now, the Edomites, I explained to you that the Edomites had a god that was called Q, okay? If I come back to, where is it, this image, it's the chief god, okay? And it's called Q. As you can see up here, there's various different spellings of it, but the way it's pronounced is Q. It's the principal god of Edom. His name means holy in Edomite, associated with strength, protection, and sovereignty, often linked to the highest mountain shrines. Now, of course, Mr. T has built himself a mountain in the middle of the city, a tower, hasn't he? And he lives where? On the very top of the tower. And it's 66. According to things you can look up, it's the 66th floor is what they call it, even though supposedly it's only 58 stories tall. But they call it the 66th. And that is a fact. You can look it up. So Q, I find it very interesting with all of the Q stuff, and I've mentioned this before, and we got a lot of new stuff to get into, but the Q thing is very, very interesting, and how he is associated with Apollo as well. And we know that Mr. T has Apollo all over his 66th floor penthouse, laden in gold. Now, I said many months ago, I said there are two gods in the Bible. And the Bible does not, for the layman reader to just read the Bible does not make it clear easily that there are two gods in the Bible. Okay? And I suspect it's part of why it's called the Bible. The word bull means law. Okay, and bi is two. So two laws, two gods is basically symbolically or phonetically what it actually means. Okay. And you go back and you see these people like King Solomon, and he built a temple, and he was in control of the demons, and he built a temple to his God that was golden laden, and it had all of these same things that you're seeing in like Petra, and same things that you're seeing in the ballroom, okay, that's being built in DC right now. Okay, hopefully you can see what that means. Okay. See, the true and one only God is not a God of vanity and idols, but the other gods, the fallen angels, they are the opposite of God, okay? They want worship, they want vanity, they want idols, they want sacrifice, they want all these things, okay? Hope that makes sense to you. There's websites that you can go on, and, it's somebody wrote it, but, you can go on here and you can read about it. And it's a lot of interesting things that goes along and backs up exactly some of the things that I'm explaining here, about like Edom means red. And I explained this is why Trump paints his face red or like an orange reddish color. This is why he's doing that. He's symbolizing on himself who he is, who he believes he is, and who his God is. Okay. And I've also explained that, like Herod, King Herod, okay, he was called Herod the Great. Now, who else do we know that is in the position of like a king position that calls himself, that likes or loves the word great? Like make America great again, MAGA, which means magic, and pretty much every language that you want to look up means sorcerer, magic, okay? It all ties right into what this is, okay? I'll try to put the links to some of these pages below the video as well, along with the links to where you can support this work. Now, the people who supported this show today, just a little bit behind, actually, a couple of videos, but I wanted to mention Diane M., Robin W., Angela F., David A., Paul M., Karen J., and Chris M. as well. And I greatly support that. I greatly appreciate that support. Now, what I'm doing is I'm starting to track and credit people just a little bit differently. Just what I'm doing at this time, okay? So I'm calling the person a producer if they choose to support this work on a monthly basis. And if you've donated to support my work 2 months in a row, you're then a producer. You get to choose the amount, okay? No more saying a specific number or asking for a specific number, because everybody's situation is different. So you're a producer. You're helping produce this work. And if maybe you donate just every once in a while and not necessarily on a monthly basis, you're a sponsor of today's video, just like Angela F. She's a sponsor of today's video. Everybody else that I read is actually in the producer category. They've donated multiple months in a row, every one of them, including a few others, which I'll read at the end of today's research. All right. So there's so much more I could read to you here, but I want to show you a few things that are interesting. There's so many things in the Star Trek movie series and television series that tie into what's going on right now. Okay, like the Borg cube. Okay, and it being in the Operation Warp Speed, and it's using warp speed, and that's a Star Trek thing, right? So there's so many things that tie and link in to, they were showing us, like the assimilation, how they're assimilating people. And how do they assimilate? The Borg uses a needle to inject things into the person. Uses a needle or a spear or an arrow, and same kind of concept, same symbolism. And they assimilate the people like that by putting a spear or needle into their arm. And of course, Apollo carries a spear in his hand. Okay. So you see how these things tie together. And of course, Q, trust the plan, Q, that is associated with Mr. T again. And this isn't all about Mr. T. He's just one of many that are involved in what's going on here, in their worship of the fallen angels. No matter what culture or time period you're talking about, they all have different names for the same set of fallen angels that they worship in order to get things worldly that they want. Okay. And no matter what names they use, it's all the same ones. It's all these same characters. Okay. It's all these same fallen angel characters here, no matter what culture or time period you go to. All right. So we have Q, who was a god figure who just appeared out of nowhere in Star Trek. Occasionally he would show up, and he was considered to be a god, a multi-dimensional god. That's their words, not mine, as to who he was in his role that he played, right? So I imagine you can see how that ties in, and how the Borg ties in with the injections. Resistance is futile. We will assimilate you. This should explain to you what's going on with all of these needles they handed out for free everywhere and got people to use them. Okay? And ultimately that ties directly to the red horse in Revelation 6, causing them to kill one another. Now, if I wanted to show you, and this was just a strange thing that kind of happened the other night. I just happened to put on an old episode, season 1, episode 10 of the Beverly Hillbillies. And
Mighty Caesar.
Let me just show you. So Ellie Mae is sitting outside by the concrete pool, and Sonny, the son of Mr. Drysdale, the banker, he's the son, and he comes over and he dresses up, puts these leaves on his head, and he's got a lyre with him, a form of a lyre, or a type of harp, that kind of thing. And he's kind of playing it for Ellie Mae, and he's showing off and everything for Ellie Mae. And I couldn't believe when I heard my ears, because this was after I started doing this work, and I guess it could be, the system listening to me and puts this up where I could find it, but I had to dig it. I just randomly dug it up. But anyways, take a listen at this.
To his knees. Come, I will take you to my palace.
So I have to pause it every once in a while because of copyright issues. And
there compose odes to your beauty. See yon window. 'Tis the Emperor's suite.
And yeah, you'll get what I'm trying to show you here in just a moment.
There I shall woo you. My life!
So his mother's watching from the next door house, out the window, his bedroom, his window. Watch what she says once she really starts talking to him.
That's my room! And those are my binoculars! You're not supposed to spy on the Emperor!
You're not supposed to spy on an emperor, right?
Are you trying to tell me something?
Sorry, but this is about the only way I can do it without potential of having this movie or this video copyrighted and...
Mumsy can see you, but she can't hear you.
And deleted, of course.
Yes, sir.
Now she's getting ready to say the most interesting part that caused me to go, that is very interesting that it happened when it happened while I'm doing this work.
Darling, Mumsy is watching. You look magnificent. Like
Apollo.
Apollo, the god of manly youth and beauty.
The god of manly youth and beauty, Apollo.
The God of poetry and music.
Poetry and music, and also is considered to be the god of prophecy. This is why Mr. T has a social platform called Truth Social. He is emulating everything to do with his belief system. Now, I don't know if he believes who exactly he believes he is. If you go to let's see here. It might have been, no, right, one of these here. Yeah. One of these articles. This is Israel 365 News talking about Trump and Esau. Well, Esau is Edom, the Edomites. He was the twin brother of Jacob. Okay. And he was red, which is what Esau means, and it's what Edom means. And he was hairy. Okay. And yeah, see, Trump could initiate building of third temple as the head of Edom, meaning that would mean he is an Edomite. You see, I'm not saying this, they're saying it. And it goes on down here, and I'll try to put this article here, but you can just search that headline and you can probably find it. But it goes on saying things that are just amazing. You know, it put him right into what I've been showing to y'all guys, okay? Purification of America in the end days. What do you think they're talking about? Well, they're talking about exactly what's going on right now, okay? And it's not good. That's for sure. It's not good. But let's go ahead and come back over to where we were at. Okay. In just a moment. I've been doing all this reading and research and stuff, trying to understand and pull together all this stuff. Like it's talking about, like Q. Another name for Q would be like Zeus or Jupiter. Okay. And I wonder, sometimes I mean, when I look at this stuff, I can't just take any one article seriously. Okay. I do a lot of prayer. I do a lot of meditation, and I take in a lot of information. I don't just believe what they're saying, I guess you'd say, okay? I don't believe just what they're saying. But I try to pull it all together and make sense out of all of it the best I possibly can. And I think that I'm doing a pretty good job.
Look out! You're getting near the water! Be careful! Wait! Mommy will get your inner tube!
I would imagine that even the things that are in that script mean certain things, like he's getting near the water, or mommy will get your inner tube. I'm not sure at this moment what exactly it may mean, but it means something, I think. All right, so let's try to go back over here and look at what I originally brought up for us to look at. Let's see, where did it go? Okay, yeah. Let's look at some of this stuff. This is another image of the pillars in Petra, which is where the word petrified comes from. And this place was huge, right out of stone, petrified tree wood of old. I'm sorry if you don't know anything about that. But let's look at this third temple thing, okay? And I have a bunch of images pulled up here. I've got to just find them. Let's see here. Let's find them. Okay. So this is an example, an image of what the temple, well, it is the temple. It's what they're calling the ballroom, or but it's a temple is what this is, okay? And it is a temple to their gods, okay? It's basically a temple of Q, temple of Apollo, temple of Baal. It's a temple to their gods, okay? Here is the main entrance, or actually it's not actually the main entrance, I don't think. Let's see. Yeah, this is on the end of the building, but there's actually no entrance here, supposedly, okay? And you can see by looking at the pillars how very, very similar they are. Again, of course, Trump would certainly want to use the imagery that he used in many other places, like Mar-a-Lago. Let's see, like Mar-a-Lago. Here's an image out of Mar-a-Lago, okay? You can see it's the same imagery of the top of the pillar, the same leaf design, the same little curly Q things, and the corners that extend out off of the pillows, okay? This is all Edomite design is what this is. This is where this came from. So, of course, this is going to be exactly the same is what this is going to be. These are images that supposedly give an example of what it's going to look like inside. These were released by Mr. T himself. And you can see a lot of the same design, the upswept design at the tops of the pillars in each location. And I would imagine that these will look even more. They will look more like the pillar from Petra once they're done. Although they look very similar in this image, I suspect it'll be even more so. Another image. This is all worship of the fallen angels. I don't know how many times I'm going to have to end up saying this. I know I'm right. I know I'm right. Now, I don't expect y'all guys to just believe me. I want you to think about it, do your own work, do your own research, whatever you want to do or need to do. I'm just bringing this to you because y'all guys hired me to do this job. And as long as you're there for me, I'm going to keep doing it, no matter how much I have to struggle. And there's quite a bit of that, but I've been able to keep going, haven't I? Well, here we are looking at the supposed floor plan, okay? And supposedly there's 2 levels to this, okay? I think there's a basement level and then an upper level is what we're looking at here. So like if I go here, there's a basement level down here. And then this whole upper level with really tall ceilings is what we're looking at in like this image. Okay. Of course, they got to have the really tall doorways because, again, they're worshiping of deities and fallen angels that were of great stature. Okay. And so they're going to build in that way. That's why Petra, all the doorways are like for a 20 to 30 foot tall person. Okay. And you can see it depicts round pillars, not those square looking ones really, but more like round pillars all the way there, all the way up of course, in the front. And right here, see, if you look at Solomon's temple, it looks almost identical to this. Okay. You have the big main room up front, which was called the holy area. And then you have the Holy of Holies, which was back here. Okay. And there would be some kind of a veil that would be across here. Now in this image, there are 4 pillars across here, and then there's a set of 4 more pillars behind it, right above my mouse. And that is surrounded by a bunch of more pillars. So this is where the Ark of the Covenant would be placed, in this location right here. Yep. The Ark of the Covenant would be placed right here. Why have this little smaller closed off area beside this big area here in the image? Matter of fact, I think I could pull it up real quick. Let's see, where was I at? Okay, let me show you this real quick and then we'll pull it up. Actually, let me go ahead and pull it up so I don't forget. Let's do Solomon's Temple floor plan. Solomon's Temple floor plan. What we got is the good example. I mean, you can already see it. In the big holy area, and then behind that, the Holy of Holies. But I'm trying to see if there's one that's vertical like what we had. This is another side truth that's related. Unfortunately, this image is small, but you can still see it. This is the Holy of Holies, and then they had the pillars out front, which represent Jachin and Boaz, the pillars out front, and then it had the holy area, and then the Holy of Holies back there where the Ark of the Covenant would be in. And ultimately, the temple was in the image of the human body, okay? Built and constructed the same way, with the Holy of Holies and the human body being in the head, okay? But that's a whole nother rabbit hole to kind of go down. Now, let me see if I can see. And this is pretty close, but don't we have any vertical images? See, in DC, you have the temple there that I'm talking about, right? With the White House and all that. And what's interesting is the walls already exist around the White House. They're not as huge, I guess. Let's see here. This. Oh. I think you can see what I'm trying to show you just by any of these images. That's too small too. Let's go back up here and let's switch to large size real quick. And maybe we'll see something that we can actually make a little bit better sense out of. I mean, most of you already know what the temple looked like, okay? Or what it was said to look like. You had the pillars out front, just like the Trump ballroom. You had the outer sanctum, or what was called the holy area. And then you have the Holy of Holies back here in the back. And I bet you, by the time this is done, there will be steps going up right here. Okay? That will be in that ballroom. There will be, by the time it's done, there will be steps. I'm willing to bet. All right, so I think y'all guys are getting what I'm saying here. This is laid out basically just like the Temple of Solomon. Okay? That's what they're doing, is they're rebuilding that. Now, let's see here. There were some other things, quite a bit of other things actually, that I wanted to show you. I told you about the whole that Mr. T had an artist draw up Jesus and then sold him for $2.75 million, auctioned him off immediately and sold him. And the gods that these guys worship, they hate Christ. Okay? And I told you and I explained to you, King Herod was in the Bible. He was the one that sent out the men looking for Christ when he was born and wanted to kill him. That's where the whole Passover thing comes from. Okay. Let's see what else I've got. This is, it's too small, but you can kind of see it anyways. An image that Mr. T released depicting himself as if he was Jesus. And then come back claiming, oh no, I was just a doctor. They make some good liars, don't they? Maybe that's why they carry a liar. It's because they're professionals at it. There's our Edom-faced, red-faced Edomite wearing his red hat with his Q god. And his belief that his god is Apollo and he is playing the role of Apollo all at the same time. He carries the tip of the spear, golden spear tip or arrow in his hand. With the name of his house called Mar-a-Lago, has to do with the mark or the logo that is upon them. And Apollo, of course, being the god of prophecy, which is why Mr. T has Truth Social, because what he puts out and makes statements about is considered to be truth, right? A lot of people believe it. A lot of people believe it. There's that liar again. That's another way that it's depicted as being like this, and it holds like important information or notes. And sometimes it's depicted as producing music, like notes of music as well. And let's see, I don't want to go back through all these. No, I have another group of things I wanted to show you if I can remember where they're at. We'll go back to here. Let's take a look at the origins of the Edomites, okay? Now, I'll just read what we got here. The Edomites, descendants of Esau, originally lived in the hill country of Seir, south of the Dead Sea and west of Israel. Key locations: Mount Seir, Basra, Iman, and Izion. Okay. And over time, they started moving and going places. Okay. So to start with, they started out there. Okay. But then they moved. Edom remains in Seir, but comes under pressure from Israel, Syria, and Babylonia. And that's around 1200 to 586 BC. And then 586 to 332 BC, after the Babylonian period, Edom is influenced by surrounding peoples and Hellenistic cultures. And took up areas in Philistia and Transjordan parts of Arabia. And then in 332 to 63 BC, the Edomites, or Idumeans, which is what they ended up starting to be called, the Idumeans, come under the Ptolemaic and the, I'm not even sure how to pronounce this word, Seleucid empires. Many moved or settled in the Judean highlands, okay? So they're still in that general area, but they move to more like coastal cities. Then it says from 63 BC to 135 AD, under Roman rule, Edomites are known as Idumeans. Many are absorbed into Judea, okay? And so they started blending with the Israelites. Like Esau and his offspring started blending with Jacob's offspring. And they started calling themselves Jews, okay? They're not Jews. They say that they are Jews, but they are not, okay? They claim to be Jews, but are not. That is biblical as well, and that's where those words come from. Then, from 135 to 700 AD, after the Bar Kokhba revolt, many Idumeans are dispersed throughout the Roman Empire. So they end up moving into the Roman Empire area, which is where it gets very interesting, okay? As you can see here in the map, Rome and Italy, a little bit in North Africa, and then from 135 to 700 AD, or excuse me, I already read that. And also it says Western Asia, Europe. So this is where they blended with the Romans, or blended with those areas, okay? Then, as you know, I have the Roman Empire, you have the Vatican and the Pope. You want to go look at their architecture and see if it's the same as the architecture that came out of Petra? What do you think I'll find when I go look? What do you think you'll find when you go look? I think we both know. Then it says from 700 AD to 1500 AD, descendants spread among Arabs, Bedouin tribes, and various Middle Eastern peoples through trade, conquest, and intermarriage. Okay? So they spread it out even more. And then it says 1500 AD to present. You can see here in the, let's see if I can make it as big as I kind of can. So the Edomites' descendants are scattered within many modern populations throughout the Middle East, North Africa, Europe, and beyond. So Middle East, North Africa, Europe, the Americas, Australia, and beyond, okay? As you can see that depicted here on the little map. So these guys, they were never really destroyed. What they did was they dispersed throughout everywhere, basically, and took their belief systems and everything with them, and apparently pretty much conquered everywhere they went to. The Edomites were considered to be an extremely proud. They had a lot of pride. They were warriors. They believed in destroying in order to get what they wanted. It's all out there if you start looking and researching and reading and praying. Okay? And let's go. I think what we'll do, let's go ahead and go to this next image. And I'm really looking forward to getting here. Okay. But we're going to do this now. The religion of the Edomites, people, their gods, and their beliefs. See if I can center this just a little bit better. The Edomites, descendants of Esau, the very hairy, red child that was born and was said to be of two nations. Jacob would be of one nation, meaning a people, a bloodline, and Esau would be in another one, a separate one. Okay? And then were Semitic people who lived in the mountainous regions of Seir, of course, Edom, south of the Dead Sea and west of Arabia. Their religion was closely related to other Northwest Semitic traditions, centered on nature, ancestors, stars, and war. Okay. Again, their gods were Q, who was the chief god, the god of gods, they believed. And we'll get to the fallen angels part next. Apollo, later influence. Greek sources, Strabo, Diodorus report that the Edomites worshipped Apollo, likely a Hellenized form of their earlier sun or storm god, associated with prophecy, music, healing, and light. Then there's Astrid or Astarte, however you want to pronounce it, okay? And she was a goddess, a major goddess of fertility. You can think of Aphrodite and all kinds of different ones out there, right? But goddess of fertility, love, and war, possibly linked to the planet Venus, the morning star, worshipped with incense offerings and sometimes sacred sexuality. Then we have Moloch, god of fire, the god associated with fire, judgment, and kingship. Some scholars believe child sacrifice may have been practiced in certain periods, common in the wider region. So Molech. Then we've got Baal, the storm god, lord of the storms, thunder and rain, important for agriculture and protection in the harsh desert environment, meaning important for them. That's what they seek to get from the god by doing animal sacrifices to him, was protection for their crops and making sure they get water and things like that. And Deshire, the sky/heaven god, god of the sky and divine realm, associated with justice, kingship, and the heavenly assembly, worshipped in high places and open-air shrines. Worshipped in high places and open-air shrines or temples. Okay? For beliefs, the mountains. Mountains were sacred. They believed the gods dwelt in the high places in Seir. Of course, where did they say that the fallen angels came down? In that area, literally, in the same area is where it is said that they came down at. Also, astronomy, they observed the sun, moon, and stars for omens, seasons, and divine signs. Sacrifice, burnt offerings of animals, grain, and incense were offered at altars. This is how they worshiped and did things in order to try to get their blessings, their material blessings of this world. Okay. Divination used dreams, lots, and omens to seek guidance from their gods. This is why the Bible says you should not use divination. Ancestors and clan honored ancestors and tribal leaders. Loyalty to family and lineage was sacred. Remember how Mr. T is always saying, good genes, good genes? Yeah, these are the genes he's referring to. Now you know. Nature spirits, springs, trees, rocks, and deserts were believed to hold holy spiritual power. This is a connection to pagan beliefs, things like that. And let's go over here. Religious character. I'll read from here. Polytheistic and nature-centered, worshipped deities associated with storms, mountains, fertility, the sun, and more. This is where they gained their technologies from as well, by their worship, their studying and watching of these things of nature. That's how they've learned to build all the technologies that they have built to this day. Strong ancestral and tribal identity practices included sacrifice, incense, sacred high places, and omens. Their beliefs were similar to other ancient Semitic peoples, the Canaanites, the Amorites, the Midianites as well. And I will spare you the bottom part, I guess. Okay. You can see, of course, imagery of Petra included in here. Okay. And here's some of the sacred symbols. Now you know why the eagle is part of the United States identity, the eagle. All of the stars, moon, sun, it all is associated with them, especially the wandering stars are associated with them when it comes to their gods. Like Jupiter and Saturn and, well, Venus, all of them. Mars, the god of war, all these things. God of war, and what color is he? Red. Mars is a reddish color. All right, so now let's go ahead and go look at this and read this. Let me center that a little better. Edomite gods and their fallen angel counterparts, comparing attributes, domains, and influences. Ancient traditions, biblical texts, and extra-biblical writings reveal that many of the gods worshipped by the Edomites, descendants of Esau, reflect spiritual powers that Scripture identifies as fallen angels or demons. While the Edomites worshiped these beings as gods, the Bible reveals them as created entities who rebelled against the Most High and now seek devotion, influence, and control over nations. I'm going to read this part, some of this other writing that I've got in here before I go to each individual here in just a moment. The Edomites worshipped right over here. Let me see if I can make it a little bigger. The Edomites worshipped created spiritual beings as gods. These beings are revealed in Scripture as fallen angels. They desire worship, power, and influence over humanity. Their attributes: war, fertility, storms, healing, wisdom, fire, align with known fallen angels described in the Bible and Enochian literature. Scriptural foundation: for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Ephesians 6:12. And the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness unto the judgment of the great day. Jude 1:6. And Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields. 1 Ezekiel 8:1. Common themes: seek worship and devotion, influence nations and rulers, promote immorality and violence, sacrifice and rebellion, teach secret knowledge and forbidden practices, operate through high places, idols, and spiritual deception. Operate through high places. Does that explain why Trump has his tower at the top, or his apartment at the top of the high place in New York City? It should. So the Edomites were not lifeless statues or symbols, but powerful spiritual beings who are enemies of God and seek to lead people away from the Most High. Edomite practices connected to these spirits: high place worship, meaning getting up very high; burning sacrifices, including child sacrifice; incense and libations; astrology and divination; sexual rituals and fertility rites; use of idols and sacred stones; oaths and covenants made in the name of these gods. The spiritual reality: these fallen angels were once holy beings created by God, but they rebelled, were cast out of heaven, and now seek to imitate God through counterfeit worship. Their ultimate goal is to corrupt, control, and keep humanity in darkness. Now we'll take a look at the actual individuals here. Again, there was Q and Apollo that came in and kind of blended with him, apparently. But Q, the chief god, also spelled Kus or Kus, chief deity of Edom, associated with strength, war, sovereignty, and protection. He actually matches up with Samyazel, or Samyaza, okay, Prince of the Watchers, associated with ruling, authority, rebellion, and teaching. That's out of the book of Enoch 6 and 7, and Jude 1:6. Leader of the Watchers, fallen angels, taught humans forbidden knowledge and led others astray. Then there's Apollo, Greek influence in Edom or Idumea, a god of light, music, healing, and sickness, prophecy, and the sun, and carried a lyre, and also is depicted as having a needle in his hand. A arrow or spear, which is actually, we know what it is these days. And his match was Erekel, angel of the sun, associated with healing, sorcery, and astronomy. Detailed in 2 Enoch 22 and 3. Okay. And it says, fallen angel associated with healing, magic, and the sun, teaches, again, secret knowledge to the humans. Ashtoreth, okay, goddess of fertility, love, sexuality, and war, linked to Venus, the morning star. Her match is Nama, one of the watchers who tempted humans and taught them corruption. Enoch 6:2. Linked to lust, sexual temptation, and leading people into sin. Then we have Moloch, god of fire, associated with fire, sacrifice, especially children, judgment, and the underworld. The match, of course, is Azazel, the scapegoat figure associated with desert, judgment, and impurity. Leviticus 16:8-10 and 1 Enoch 10. Associated with sacrifice, harsh judgment, and the wilderness. Then we have Baal, Hadad, the storm god, lord of storms, thunder, rain, and agriculture, protector in battle. And the match with that is Satael, associated with storms, warfare, and leading people into rebellion. 2 Enoch 15:1. And then Dushara. This is the Greek gods over here, and these are the fallen angels as depicted in the book of Enoch. And these are their matches, you understand? So Dushara, the sky god, god of the sky in the heavenly realm and divine justice, worshipped in high places. And his match was Zaphequel, I believe is how close to pronounce it. Prince of the air, works against righteousness from the heavens. 2 Enoch 20:1. Okay. So in conclusion, the gods of Edom reflect a counterfeit spiritual kingdom led by fallen angels who oppose God and his purposes. Their religion was and is a mix of ancient rebellion, deception, and demonic influence. Okay? I would think that at this point, things should be getting pretty clear as to what and who we're dealing with. Are they not? I would think they have to be. I've laid out substantial proof already, but I'm not done. But I've laid out substantial proof already. I'd like to thank Diane M., Robin W., Angela F., David A., Paul M., Karen J., Chris M., for being sponsors of today's work and sponsor overall the last couple of videos. Really, it was spread out. And also, I'd like to thank, again, Diane M., David Q., Robert G., Christopher B., Kimberly G., Karen J., matter of fact, twice thank Karen J. there, and Daniel L., and also Anonymous. You can be anonymous if you don't want your name mentioned. You have to let me know in the comment on when you make a donation to support this work. I hope y'all guys can see. I know, and I've been doing YouTube for 16 years, and I've never seen anybody, and I'm not boasting, okay? But I've never seen anybody put together this like this. I give all credit to my Father in heaven for allowing me to be able to do this. And I also give some credit to y'all guys, because y'all guys are the ones that support my work and allow me to have the time to be able to do this instead of having to go out and do whatever I have to do. Because I believe, and I think most of you understand, this is my calling. This is my thing I have to do for the rest of my life, as long as Father wants me here doing it, I'm going to do it. And I do appreciate and I do need your support. Even though I named those names like that, you know, once you start totaling it all up, need some more support and just to be able to survive throughout a period of a month. Okay. Every person that has donated here has been very generous, but even though I have no car payments, no house payments, no loans of any kind, there's still, as y'all guys know, expenses, just electricity. You know, you're talking a couple $100 a month. You know, internet, $100 a month. The website costs me $150 a month. You know, my water bill, $50 a month. And I can go on quite a ways further and not even mention getting food or doing anything or buying any gas or anything to go to the grocery store. And I think y'all guys understand. Just know that I appreciate it and I do need it. So which direction should we go next? What do we want to look at next? We can look further down any one of these, or we can look at a different direction. There's many to choose from so that we can further understand and be able to see what there is to see. Because no matter if this is the third temple that they're building in Washington, D.C. or not, it is a temple. And it is a temple to the fallen angels. Am I correct? Yes, I am. I do believe it's ultimately for you to choose, you know, but I believe I am correct. Father, forgive me if I make any mistakes, and please correct me and show me my error so that I can continue to show the people the truth. For I do love the truth, Father. I reckon that is going to be about it. The links where you can become a supporter or a producer for my work are below. You don't have to have a PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo. You can have, as long as you've got a debit card, there's options down there for that too that work through the website. And also, I have an address down there as well that I'm trying to get straightened out. I had a little problem with it, but I think I've got it straightened out. Anyways, hope y'all guys enjoyed that as much as it is to be enjoyed. And I'll be back again. You know me, real soon. I love you. Father in heaven loves you. Don't fall into following these traps. This is why I'm showing it to you, so you can see it clearly. I love you. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye for now.
I've got one that can see.
Logic before authority.